FPL is still a good couple weeks away, but I've made myself a new team anyway. Let's go take a look. Disclaimer, I am not an expert, this is just my opinion. First things first guys, I am a liar. I went against my word, I am pure filth. I said Bruno and Haaland drafts weren't that optimal, and to be honest, I still kind of feel that way. The reason being is because every time one of these guys isn't your captain, especially Haaland, is that they don't bring you much value because the only reason they cost so much is to be your captain on a regular basis. And once I looked at the captaincy rotation, I realised it's pretty much pure perfection up until game week 15. Excluding game week 4 when they play each other as well, of course, but the captaincy rotation is good. And on top of that, there are so many players in FPL this season that are so good yet so cheap. It sort of makes no sense to leave these guys out because I don't need the players costing 8 to 10 million when the players costing 6 to 8 million are pretty much just as good, you know? It's a weird scenario where, yeah, Bruno and Haaland isn't necessarily the best idea, but with how many good cheap players there are, there's no point not owning both because everyone else in my team is pretty cheap. So yeah, I did lie, but that's enough of me yapping. Let's talk about my team. Verbruggen is my keeper. 4.5 million. Kinski is a popular option. I do believe it's Verbruggen or Kinski. Raya's also okay. A lot of people are going Lamens. I like United, but I'm not big on Lamens because I don't think he'll be making many saves. I believe Verbruggen or Kinski for 4.5 million are both much better. I prefer Verbruggen to Kinski because Kinski, well, there's a lot of unknown there. Spurs are changing a lot. Verbruggen, you know you're getting a team that was 4th best for expected goals conceded last season and a keeper that can make a lot of saves. So even when they don't keep a clean sheet, you could be looking at a 3 or 4 pointer. And when they do keep a clean sheet, then maybe you're looking at 8 or 9 points. To me, it's a no-brainer to go for Verbruggen, but I understand the reasoning to go for Kinski. The goalkeeper on my bench is irrelevant. In fact, everyone on my bench is as cheap as possibly can be. They all play some minutes regularly, or they did last season. So they all have some use. If I do have an injury in my starting 11, I am backed up by the players on my bench. But they're not worth mentioning because I'm never actually going to plan on using them. I'm sure you've seen all these names before. Diop, Slater, and however you say the other guy's name. My goalkeeper is Lecomte, just Fulham backup keeper. There's no 4 million playing keeper, so there's not really much point going for one. Into my defence, Gabriel here. 200 points last season, 31 starts. That's worth 8 million for me. I don't know about you guys. If you don't think it's worth it, that's cool. Fine by me. You stay in your lane. I'll stay in mine. The Arsenal defence is still very strong without Saliba. I've talked about it so many times in pre-season already. I can't keep saying it. But the Arsenal defence, data shows it was levels above the second best defence in the league. It wasn't even close. With or without Saliba, these guys, yeah, they'll be a little weaker, but their defence will still be the strongest in the league by a few million miles, no doubt. Well, a few million miles may be excessive, but comfortably, I believe it's going to be the best. So Gabriel stays here. We all know who Gabriel is. We all know what he can do. Mosquera is my other Arsenal defender, who I believe is the best value defender in the game while Saliba is out. When looking at other Arsenal defenders, who do you have? Calafiori, Lewis Skelly, Ben White and Timber? Who's actually going to start out of those guys? Well, a lot of people are assuming it's going to be Calafiori, and out of Ben White and Timber, we don't know who's going to be there. Like, Timber is on his way back from injury. I don't know if he'll start game week 1 or not. I don't think anyone does at the moment, but he's definitely getting close. Either way, a lot of people are going for Calafiori, and that's cool. He probably will start game week 1. But the Arsenal fullbacks are not reliable for starts. They never have been, they never will. And I know Mosquera is also kind of the problem as well, because when Saliba's back, he's definitely not going to be good for starts. But while Saliba's out injured, he's fairly reliably in that starting 11. You can't say the same for any other Arsenal defender, which is why I'm not going for any other defender. Even though Calafiori is an okay pick, I do believe you will have the odd game, even without Champions League football, where he gets rotated just for whatever reason. And when that happens, you Calafiori owners will feel hard done by. Just make sure you remember it is all your fault for picking Calafiori in the first place. On to Muharemovic now. Some of you may not be familiar with this name. I may not even be saying it right. I'm actually picking this based on what I saw on Twitter/X. There's a guy on there called Alex Volo. Dude's genuinely the best way to get FPL information in the entire FPL community. If you guys are into FPL, you really need to go on Twitter and follow this guy because his advice is amazing. He's essentially shown that Muharemovic is a DEFCON beast, a DEFCON monster. He's 5 million in the Leeds defence, and that Leeds defence last season had pretty good underlying data. The expected clean sheets were pretty good. They were above average compared to the rest of the teams in the league. They just didn't keep as many clean sheets as the data suggested. So this season, if they actually perform to the level they're supposed to, especially with strengthened defenders like Muharemovic, they could keep a fair few clean sheets, and this guy will be getting DEFCONs non-stop. Well, that's the theory, obviously. He's not played many games for Leeds yet, but I think he achieved 15 DEFCONs in pre-season. Once again, I got that information from Alex Volo. I didn't count myself. Part of me wanted to have 2 4.5 million defenders here, Luke Shaw and Konza, because they rotated quite nicely. But I also don't believe in rotating players defensively, like same with keepers, because there's going to be a tough game you bench a player for and they're going to get a 10-pointer. It's just guaranteed to happen. So I may as well just pick one 5 million defender who's always going to get DEFCONs and the occasional clean sheet, because the Leeds fixtures ain't so bad. In midfield, we have the man himself. You already know he's here. It's Bruno Fernandes. The opening fixtures are incredible, and I'm actually considering Bruno as my captain in game week 1 over Haaland at the moment, even though it's a lot riskier. Away to Hull is the second easiest fixture in the game, behind home to Hull. That game is too easy, and it's hard to not captain a player like Bruno against Hull. Even though Haaland also has a good fixture home to Bournemouth, it's still not going to be as easy as away to Hull. Going against Haaland captain though, it is risky, so I may change my mind, but right now I think Bruno being captain is the way to go. The rest of my midfield is quite cheap. We have Szoboszlai, and I've talked about him a lot already in pre-season. He's on free kicks and corners. People are theorising he's going to play as a right winger now Salah is gone. Last season we saw him play as a right winger, a right back and a centre mid. No matter what position he plays, to me, he is a good pick because he's always on them set pieces. When he plays as a right winger, he's got a higher chance of a goal involvement. When he plays as a defensive mid or a right back, he's got a higher chance of getting DEFCONs. So either way, he's got routes to go down to get points. And he's second in line to penalties, which isn't always great, but when it's Isak who's first in line, he may not be playing the full 90. He's a fairly injury prone guy. He may need to get rested now and then. So having someone like Szoboszlai, who is always on the pitch to take penalties when Isak isn't there, is pretty good insurance. We then have Foden. Now this is assuming Maresca is not a liar. Maresca could be a liar. Maresca said that Foden is a central pillar to his plans at Manchester City. To me, that means Foden is going to be starting on a regular basis. At 7 million, that's an absolute no-brainer for me. If we get closer to the game week 1 deadline and it doesn't look like Foden's going to be starting every game, then I'll get rid of him. I won't want him in my team if he's just going to be a rotation risk. So he's the one player here where it's like, 50-50, you know. One player I'm sort of prepared to get rid of. Everyone else I'm pretty happy with. The issue is there's no one else I want at 7 million. So if Foden's not going to be good, I may have to restructure the team. Hopefully Foden is going to be good. Then we have Pascal Gross. I recently made a video called the most underpriced players in FPL, and I regret not realising how underpriced this guy was at 5.5 million. He seems to be on penalties now Welbeck is gone, and I believe he's on corners too. Well, not all of them, but on the FPL app he is listed as the primary corner taker for Brighton, so that means he's probably on corners. Looking at 5.5 million players, I was looking for one. He was the last player in this team. I didn't build it around him. There were a lot of okay players, but no one quite as good as Pascal Gross. No one had the underlying data of Pascal Gross, along with the DEFCON potential and the set pieces. It just seems a bit too good to be true. Like, the person closest I could think was Ampadu, and Ampadu's not great. There's other 5.5 million players that could be good, but the only 5.5 million midfielder in FPL that looks great for his price is Pascal Gross. The fixtures aren't great. They're on the worst side of things aside from game week 3 and 4. But a player that has set pieces and DEFCON potential doesn't really need good fixtures because they don't rely on the open play XG their team generates. A player like Hinshelwood from Brighton, who's very offensive and gets his points from open play goals and assists, wouldn't do too well on a bad fixture run, but Pascal Gross, set pieces and DEFCONs, he could still do quite well. Now in the front three, we obviously have Haaland. He always opens the season really well, especially in the first 6 game weeks. I do expect to drop off around halfway through the season, 50% of the way through. I believe everybody will sell him. He always fatigues later on in the season. That's what he's been doing ever since he joined Man City. Could it change under Maresca? Yeah, it could. Do I think it will? No, I don't. João Pedro, definitely the most underpriced player in the game. Those guys at FPL headquarters are stupid. I don't know what they took on the day they were deciding this guy's price. I actually can't imagine how this conversation went down. Like, If there's 5 to 10 guys in a room and they're talking about João Pedro, one of the guys says, yo, João Pedro, what should we price him at? Then some guy says 7.5 million. I cannot imagine the other 9 guys in that room just staying silent. There had to be someone in that room who was shocked, gobsmacked. Maybe they took him out, I don't know. But for some reason, they made João Pedro 7.5 million, and I'm going to take advantage of that. Finishing off the team, we have Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who is also too cheap. 3rd for expected goals in the Premier League last season, and they decided to price him at 6 million. Seems a bit silly. I think 6.5 or 7 would have been a lot fairer. Leeds also have an okay fixture run. It's on the better side of things. The issue with Calvert-Lewin is he's not good at finishing, guys. He is pretty bad at finishing, he always has been. But his strengths come in actually finding himself in the right positions. It's too bad when he does find himself in the right positions, half the time it doesn't go well. One thing that's going in favour of Calvert-Lewin is the fact Leeds have strengthened. For example, I talked about Muharemovic earlier. We also have Harry Wilson at Leeds as well. Big upgrade in the attack. He can supply Calvert-Lewin some assists. So I think people should own this man. There's lots of good forwards in the game. Lots. Calvert-Lewin, João Pedro and Haaland are all 3 really good forwards. There's other good options in game week 1. Thiago, because Brentford have a good fixture run. Brobby as well. It's annoying we can't own more forwards. The only reason I've gone Calvert-Lewin is because it's not a transfer out waiting to happen. If I go Brobby, I'm going to have to sell him in game week 3 or 4 because Sunderland will not do well on a bad fixture run. If I want to go Thiago, yes, his XG was very high last season, but I'm going to be relying on some penalties in the hard games for him to actually get returns. So Calvert-Lewin for me is the guy to go for. Looking at this team, I'm quite happy with it. I know it will change. There's talk of Vinny Jr. coming to the Premier League. Going for Vinny Jr. isn't the end of the world, but the Haaland and Bruno captaincy rotation is just a lot better than the Haaland and Vinny rotation would be, and it's a lot better than the Bruno and Vinny rotation would be. We also saw Gyökeres come to Arsenal, and when he played his first season, he was bad. He was a lot worse than he was at Sporting Lisbon. But that's because of the way Arsenal play. It's not really his fault. And we could see the same happen to Vinny Jr. So yeah, this team, pretty happy with it. Only guy that I'm debating around is Foden. I'm going to have to see what Man City do in pre-season because, like I said earlier, if he's not starting every game, he is not staying in the team. Anyway, guys, if you made it this far, you're greatly appreciated. I will see you all in the next video.